So, a lot of writers' only intention with their stories is to entertain their audience, right? They're trying to make a fun story that people will enjoy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you're trying to make a meaningful story, a story that actually is good, high quality art, that actually stands the test of time and people really learn things from it and are drawn closer to truth from it, how do you write that kind of story? Well, part of the answer is you just need to be a more mature individual and you just got to gain life experience, and I can't help you with that one. But there are two techniques that I have noticed as a writer that can do this effect for you almost by magic if you learn to pursue them. And those two elements are patterns and the kappa element. We can make a whole video just talking about those two individual elements, but here's what they are very briefly. Patterns, I mean archetypes, the kind of universal symbols and ideas that you find in every culture and across the whole world, the ones that really speak to you personally, those are the ones that you're going to get a lot out of when you try to put them in your story. For example, why do you think the trope of the knight in shining armor trying to save the princess from the evil dragon shows up in so many different stories, so much so we make fun of it? Well, my dear viewer, that's because it speaks something very deeply to the relationship between men and women. You don't have to put it in word for word in your story. You can take it up and mix it up a little bit and see what happens when you do so. But I promise you that if you put those kinds of universal archetypes in your story, it will feel good because you played along with the patterns that are fundamental to the universe itself. And this is not the only one. There are patterns like the difference between heaven and earth, patterns of the dying and resurrecting God. You will find that all over mythology. You can find all sorts of different interesting patterns and symbolism throughout the world. And the more you try to ponder it and understand it, well, you yourself will certainly become a more mature individual, but you will also make very good stories. The second element is what I call the kappa element. And this is not my term. This was invented by a guy named Michael Ward. This guy figured out that C.S. Lewis's wonderful Narnia books, each one of those books was based off of one of the 7 medieval planets. And this is medieval cosmology, which is geocentric. So the sun and the moon are considered planets in this cosmology, but each of the books actually maps to one of these planets and the different symbolic elements therein. For example, the first book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, maps to Jupiter, Jove, which is a dying and resurrecting god. The book Prince Caspian, which comes right after that, maps to Mars, which obviously is the god of war and has a lot of martial elements in that story. No one knew about this until Michael Ward basically discovered this by accident and wrote a book called Planet Narnia that uncovers this entire system and very meticulously describes each one of these elements. And this is what he calls the kappa element, the hidden element. When you try to put in hidden meanings inside your story, certain patterns that people can learn to uncover, and don't tell anyone that they exist, people will start to discover them and find that your story actually has meaning and profundity to it. So I can't tell you how to make a very meaningful story, but these are two techniques that I have seen used over and over again in the stories that I personally find meaningful. And if you use them in your story, I can almost promise you, you're going to create something really special.